Hi, Orp here. Just a quick message before Challenging Ideas number 3 starts, and that is I'd like to apologize to my viewers for my absence on this Challenging Ideas show. As some of you may know already, I've undergone surgery in the last couple of months. I'm in a recovery stage. I'm having my ups and downs, and there's probably more surgery to come. So that's why I've been away, and I hope to stick to my goal of making at least one of these a week. And it's just a little change of format. I was writing them up and reading them before, and at the suggestion of some friends, family members, and some supporters like yourselves, it's been suggested that maybe I should do them live. So not that I am showing it live, what's to come. I recorded it live, kind of off the top of my head. I was walking around Marley Park. I see now the visuals could have been better, so I'll correct that in the next one. So as usual, I'd like to please invite you to support me by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and perhaps leaving a comment, particularly those who don't agree with what I'm saying, and it's perfectly fine not to agree. And as I always say, if you can give me some good reasons to change my mind, I will. That's what this is all about. It's about discussing these ideas and seeing if we can change each other's minds or come to some new understanding. So thanks again for your support, and here's Challenging Ideas number 3. Hope you enjoy it. Take care. Challenging Ideas number 3. People who say that they're offended by something someone else says or does should not be taken seriously and are basically just whining. That's what we're looking at today. As you can see, I am not reading from a script. I am doing this live. I don't have a script. I don't know exactly what I'm going to say. I have some thoughts and ideas about this because it's something that keeps coming up. More and more, I see anyway, from my little vantage point in life, from the videos I watch on YouTube to my interactions with people, that more and more people are trotting out this phrase or some version of it. So it's either, I'm offended by that, or I find that offensive, or you're offensive. And it's really getting on my nerves, I have to admit. And I wonder what's really behind it. Why is it such a phrase that is just continuously being used and seems to be growing in popularity? Now, I haven't come to a complete conclusion that I'm going to stick to, as in the proposed idea. I generally agree with it, and having spoken to a number of people, friends, family, it's probably not just black and white. However, as I said, generally I would agree with it, and I feel in good company. I'm sure most of you have heard of Stephen Fry, one of England's lovies. He is a true Renaissance man. He's an actor, he's a writer, he's just a super intelligent, serious linguist. The man has such a huge vocabulary. I'm sure his IQ is probably over 160, and he just knows everything about everything practically. The reason I bring him up is because you can go to YouTube. I'll put the description or the link in the description, and he is on a little YouTube clip where he is talking to the late Christopher Hitchens, and it's just a still picture, and it's very short, and he basically says, and don't quote me, to the best of my memory, he says, have you noticed how so many people these days are saying, I'm offended by that? He says, I don't get it. It's just a whine. They're basically just whining. They seem to say it as though it gives them certain rights. It has no reason, it has no meaning. And he said, they say, when he hears it, I'm offended by that. He says, so fucking what? And I tend to feel the same. Like, okay, so you've just admitted that something somebody said or did causes you to feel offense and be offended, and you've stated this. So what? What do you want? A lollipop? You want some kind of kudos that you chose to be offended? I don't get it myself. So what triggered this was I was recently out for lunch with two of my cousins. And we were enjoying a really nice lunch in this new American diner burger joint in Terranure, which I highly recommend if you ever get out there. It's just across from the church there in the center of Terranure. I can never remember the name of it. Bujo, I think it is. Anyway, at some point we got talking politics, and I believe Leo Varadkar, or Leo the Aardvark as I like to call him, only because Aardvark is a anagram of Varadkar, and I love anagrams. I don't have very good feelings about that man. And being passionate, as I often am about certain subjects, I happen to say, and warning, spoiler alert, I'm about to swear, so if any of you are easily offended, look at this little robin. Hi. Hi. How you doing? I wish I had something for you. I don't have any nuts or anything. Yeah, so I said something along the lines of, Leo Varadkar, he's such a fucking cunt. And I meant that, and I said it deliberately. I chose my words. And one of my cousins surprised me. Well, not really, because she's a bit like this. She's a bit of one of these kind of woke, easily oversensitive types, She doesn't only get offended on her behalf, she gets offended on other people's behalf, which to me is just outrageous. But anyway, she kind of reeled back and she went, don't you use that word? That's very offensive. Now, had she approached it differently, I may have responded differently. I don't know. But I found, believe it or not, I felt like, oh, here's somebody trying to censor my free speech. I very much value my free speech. I hope you do too, because it's being gradually eroded and stripped away from us, and nobody seems to be paying any attention or noticing it. And if we don't stand up and use our voices and exercise our freedom of speech, as is protected in the European Convention of Human Rights, look it up, then we're going to lose it. Our rights are like muscles. If you don't use them, you lose them. And it's happening all over the world. Look at America. America's about to lose its democracy. And once lost, they're never going to get it back. So I felt, believe it or not, by her telling me, ordering me not to use a word, to censor my speech. Now, I could have said to her, I find what you just said very offensive, and I really don't want you to do that again. She'd probably have laughed at me and would have not found my claim of offense to be valid, while maintaining that hers was. And that's one of the problems with this I'm offended stuff. Okay, you're offended, I'm offended by you being offended. Now what? Where does it get us? So anyway, I did what I would have liked her to do. So I kind of asked her, well, how do you mean? I mean, can you explain to me? Because what was she offended by? Did she love Leo Varadkar and she was sticking up for him? Or was it my language? I mean, this is a 58-year-old woman. I'm sure she's heard it all. So anyway, she told me, to my surprise, that she found it offensive because, well, didn't you know that when you call Leo Varadkar or anybody that word, that C word, that you're basically calling them a woman's genitalia. Well, I don't know about you, but I could not help but laugh out loud because of how outrageously stupid that is when you stop and think about it. I'll admit it, I'm heterosexual. I'm not proud of it. I just am. I didn't choose it. That's just how I was born and the way I am. So no kudos for being heterosexual or anything. I don't need you to respect me, or I don't have any pride in it. But I pointed out to her that being heterosexual, I have a kind of fondness for women's genitalia in general, not all of them. Not everyone I've met was I fond of, but generally speaking. So if I like that, if I like something, let's change it so we don't keep talking about vaginas. I like flowers, say. So what sense does it make for me to want to berate somebody, to call them a nasty name, to show my feelings for them, to express myself? And I go, Leo Varadkar, he's such a bunch of flowers. It's just ridiculous. Surely if I am going to call him a name, it's going to be something bad. Now, you might say, well, then why did you call him a woman's genitalia? Because that's what cunt means. It means vagina. Well, let you know a little secret, as I did my cousin, and I'm sure you already know this, but different words have different meanings, or more specifically usages. It might surprise you to discover that the dictionary, although we think that's where you go to get the definition of a word, it's really not. It's where you go to find out the current usage of a word. Case in point, the word literally. Literally, up until recently, when they made some changes to the dictionaries, meant not figuratively. So, for an example, if a person, back in the olden days, said, I'm literally starving, when they're not literally starving, I mean actually starving, that would have been incorrect. They should say, I'm figuratively starving. I'm exaggerating it. I'm saying that I'm starving, but it's not really that. It's just I'm hungry. I'm going the extreme. If you look up in the dictionary now, believe it or not, because of the usage, because this millennial group of kids or grown-ups now started using literally to mean figuratively, and that's the usage, it also literally also means figuratively. It gets confusing, I know. So different people use words, and they have different meanings in their heads for what they represent to them. Another example is, and I said this to my cousin, I said, come on, that's kind of silly you saying that to me, because you of all people should know, when we lived in Miami and we were in our teens, and I did not yet know what, anything about gays or homosexuals or anything like that, we did call other people faggots. Did we mean, hey, you're a homosexual, when we said, hey, you're such a faggot? No. Did we mean what the word can mean in Scotland? You're a bunch of sticks? No. We meant you're a jerk. You're an idiot. You're a clown. Except why faggot? Because it had more oomph. It had more power. It was worse. Like, you can call somebody, oh, you're such an idiot. Or you can say, you're such an asshole. It's just somehow worse. So you have degrees of berating somebody with words, or describing how you feel about them. So she wouldn't take that. It didn't matter. Yeah, well, it still is, whatever you say, it still is a definition for a woman's genitalia. Well, I said, if you want to think, if I ever use that word again, around you that I'm calling somebody a vagina in a sort of negative way. Again, you can think that, but that's not what I mean. I just mean a complete twat. Well, shit. Twat is also a word that's similar because it also suggests or could mean vagina, but it also means a jerk, an idiot, an asshole. Just a derogatory term with no real meaning except to know it's derogatory. It's funny because when at least growing up, and the guys I know now, if some guy calls another guy a stupid prick, they never say, "What are you doing calling him a male genitalia?" Never heard it once in my life, because they know they don't actually mean you're a penis. And they even come close and they say you're a dickhead. Do they mean the actual knob of a penis? No. They again mean idiot or jerk or whatever. So I think if my cousin had said to me what I said to her, which is to first try to make sure you understand what they mean on the basis that, as I just demonstrated, people have different usages for the words that they're saying, and just because we think of something by them saying that word doesn't mean that that's what they mean. So when I hear somebody say literally these days, sometimes I have to check whether they mean literally as in literally, but not as in not, what is the word? Not figuratively. I'm just a bit breathless from the beauty of this park scene I'm in. We're in Marley Park, enjoying a very mild November day, and maybe you can hear the birds. No rain at the moment. The sun kind of up there behind a, very lovely to be out and breathing the fresh air and the smell of leaves. Anyway, back to where we were. So had she done the same for me and said, well, hold on, you just said Leah Varadkar was a nasty cunt. How do you mean? Then I would have said, well, I mean, he's a real asshole. See, again, do people think that when you call somebody an asshole, did you literally mean a rectum? I don't think they do. For some reason, it seems to only pertain to, how's it going? To the C word. It's just a word, Jesus Christ. Oh, I'm so offended by that word, by that sound you made based on the way you use the air coming out of your mouth and the way you positioned your lips and tongue. Oh, it's really, really annoyed me and irritated me. It's partly really frustrating because I kind of really don't get it, and it's partly really laughable. I have mixed emotions, as you can tell, about this topic. So I would have said to her, what did I mean? I mean, I think Leah Varadkar is just a complete jerk, an asshole, and so on. And then she could have said, you know, why do you think that, if she was interested? And then maybe she could have said, you know, and she could have owned it. You know, maybe not everybody, and since you used the word the way you're saying you used it, which had nothing to do with a woman's genitalia, maybe I shouldn't be offended because that's not how you're using it. But I got to admit, I still am offended anyway. So I'm only asking, it's an invitation. Would you mind? Because, you know, being offended is not a good state to be in. I don't like being offended, but I can't seem to help myself. So I ask you the favor, maybe if you could, when you're around me, not use the C word. And I would have probably said, sure, I'll do my best. I mean, I don't use it that often anyway. I use it very rarely, but I do use it sometimes for emphasis and that oomph that it gives. I did actually, at the end of the conversation, which didn't go too great because she didn't really care about what I meant or whatever. She just really focused on her being offended. I did say, look, I'll do my best not to use it around you in the future, but do know that if I do say it, it isn't what you think I mean, because I've told you what I mean, and that's how I use it. I never actually call a woman's genitalia that word. It's strange, isn't it? There's other words for that. So here's the thing. When people in this whiny way, and it often is, these often Karens, as I'm sure you've heard the phrase, go around being offended, looking to take offense. My interactions on Facebook, it blows my mind how many people can misconstrue a simple sentence that I write that is very clear to me, very clear. I even think about things. How can people take this the wrong way? And then it's okay, and I put it out there, and they still decide to take it the wrong way. And they decide to become victims and tell you how offended they are and try and make you feel guilty. And it's just crazy. I remember, I'm 58 now. I remember growing up, and it didn't actually happen to me, but it was one of those kind of things you heard where, you know, some kid who's got glasses and he goes to this new school and they start picking on him and calling him Specky Four Eyes. Now, if he shows them that that bothers him, whether it offends him or it makes him feel picked on to the point that he's going to cry, whatever. If he does that, then he's sending them a message. So that's the feedback to them is, yes, when you call me that, you get my goat, you have this power over my state, and I could be happy and you could say that to me, and you'll put me in this very bad state where I might start crying and want to run home to my mom. But often, you know, in the story, she goes home to his mom and tells her, and she says, what? Well, little Johnny, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names or words can never hurt me. So I propose that if you see the sense in not allowing, not giving the power to other people to press a button, as it were, and change your state, like they have a remote control that you gave them. So you give somebody a remote control. Here's the remote control to my different channels. My channels being different states: happiness, sadness, guilt, anger, fear, whatever. And there you go. And of course you have access now to press any of those buttons. And then they press something that offends you. And then you start whining and blaming them. It's like, oh, listen, if you don't want me to have the remote, if you don't want me to press your buttons, don't give me the remote control. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's quite simple. So I would contend that even if, and I don't, and I was talking to an old friend yesterday about this to get his take, and he agreed with me that never once in his life has he thought in terms of being offended, let alone ever saying the phrase to somebody, oh, that offends me, or I'm offended by that, or I find that offensive. And we're both like that. We never, maybe it's just the world we grew up in. We agreed that it is kind of, look, imagine you're Superman and you meet Lex Luthor and you say to him, look, I know we're you're my arch enemy and we're going to be, you know, fighting each other and stuff, but listen, just so you know, don't use kryptonite. Please don't use kryptonite, because it really, really makes me sick and I lose all my power and strength. And then Lex Luthor uses kryptonite, and you're Superman there lying on the floor, losing all your strength, going, why did you do that, Lex? I can't believe that you did that. That would be silly. I'm going to sit down for a minute because I need a rest. So in the same vein, I remember when I used to stand outside the GPO discussing religion with the Muslims or the Christians. And I remember one specific time when I was talking to a Muslim I hadn't met before, and this guy was quite aggressive and threatening and intimidating. And that wasn't really washing with me. And I said to him at one point, because I was getting a bit passionate, I said something like, well, you know, that's your fucking opinion. And he did what my cousin did. And he reeled back as though I'd hit him with a baseball bat. And he said, oh, don't say that. Don't say that. I said, say what? He said, oh, don't swear and use curse words around me. And I said, why not? And he said, because I'm offended. That's very offensive. So what did I say? I said, well, I'm sorry you fucking find it so fucking offensive, but I'll fucking say whatever I fucking want. Because that's my right. My freedom of speech. And for you to stand there and try and violate my rights and censor me, if I was like you, I'd find that offensive. But I don't. You know, you can say what you want. See, I respect your freedom of speech. So you can say to me, you find it offensive, and that's okay. In fact, I would go to bat for your right to find it offensive. So go ahead and be offended. That's okay. And I'll go ahead and use my free speech and continue to say, fuck this and shit that and whatever I like. And if you don't like it, you can kick rocks. You can walk away. Well, he couldn't understand this, or at least he acted as though he couldn't. He thought the fact that he just said to me he found something offensive, then that immediately gave him the rights over my rights, and I shouldn't do it. So he finally came back with, well, what if I was to call you names? I said, there's nothing you could call me or say about me that would cause me to be offended. You know why? Because, and I refer back to what I was just saying, because I'm not going to hand over to you, of all people, the remote control to my emotional states and allow you to press buttons and make me this or make me that. Why would I do that? And in fact, here's something. Even if for some reason you did say something that offended me, I wouldn't even let you know. I wouldn't give you that. I wouldn't give you that satisfaction. I wouldn't let you know about my kryptonite. You see what I'm saying? So he then said, well, let's say then your wife just walked around the corner now and came up to us and I called her some names. I said, what names? Well, I called her a whore and a bitch. I said, is that the best you got? And he said, well, she'd be offended, and what would you do? I said, why do you think I'd do anything? Well, why should I do anything? You have freedom of speech, and you can state your opinion about my wife. Well, what would she do? I said, she'd probably laugh in your face, mainly because she's neither of those things, but even if she was both of those things, like me, she wouldn't give you the satisfaction. There's nothing you could say. You're beyond reach. She's beyond reach of you. Do you know what I mean? So, like, you do you, I'll do me, as the saying goes, and I'll use my free speech, and you use your free speech to tell me what you find offensive, and I'll stick up for your right to be offended. And if you get to a point where you just can't deal with what I'm saying because the offense is too strong, then leave. And vice versa, if I get to the point where I find your continued stating in a whiny voice that you are offended, then I'll leave. You know, otherwise, let's continue. So is it black and white? Should we really just laugh at people who say, I'm offended, and consider it as them just whining like a child in need of a pacifier? It's probably not just black and white. I mean, my friend brought up the thing. He said, well, being the devil's advocate, what if me and you were standing somewhere and we were talking, my nieces came along and they're, say, between, 5 and 10 years old, and you use that word we've been discussing, the C word, the cunt word, not to them, but you just say it to me. I think Leo Varadkar's an absolute cunt, and they hear it. And I say to you, listen, do you mind not using that around these kids, that language? I said, well, yes, you could ask me that, and I would absolutely, I would apologize, because I wouldn't have meant to have said that around your kids. That's probably a general agreed societal norm that we don't use curse words and four-letter words, as they say, and expletives around children. Why exactly is another issue, but I pretty much go along with that. I don't want to upset them or upset you. So I'd agree, and I wouldn't, use that around those kids. Not deliberately anyway. So that's different, though. I said, we're talking about adults here. My cousin's 58. Most people who I see on YouTube, etc., are grown-ups. They've heard these words a million times. They probably use them themselves from time to time. And the funny thing was, while my friend was saying this, he just slipped in, as people do, the word fucking. Fucking this, fucking that. And I said, see, isn't it funny? Because he admitted that he found the C word a bit offensive himself. Not that he was demanding I didn't use it around him. He was just letting me know. And I said, well, isn't it funny? You're saying that you find it distasteful, you don't like it, and that's fine. That's your taste. But you just were saying fucking a few times. What if I said to you, I don't like that word? Where does it end? Where does it end? Oh, I'm offended by the fact... In America right now, there's these First Amendment auditors, and they go around with their cameras, exercising their right to free press, and filming, whatever they can see from a public vantage point. I've gone on about this for ages. And I mean this literally, and I mean that word literally, not the other way. People call the police and say, so-and-so is filming, and I feel offended. I'm offended that they're filming and they got me on camera, and I don't want to be on camera. And the cops come. And often they go to the person who's filming and they tell them, some people are finding it very offensive. And again, where does it stop? What? So what? What about people who find men dressed as women offensive? What about people who find this political party we have right now running this country into the ground offensive? Should we call the police? Where does it end? So I can't help it. This is all an opinion thing and a matter of taste. The law is that I can use my free speech. It's not unlimited. I can't use hate speech, and I can't use speech that incites violence. Outside of that, I can express my feelings and my opinions and my thoughts. And I think people should respect that. They should respect the law. And if they don't like it, they should get it changed or try and get it changed. So in the meantime, let people do what they want if it's within the law. Now, if you are literally unable to contain yourself and you're with somebody and let's say they keep using the cunt word and you just, you can't stand it, then you can ask them. You can say, could you maybe do me a favor now that you know that it just so upsets me and causes me to feel so bad? Do you think you might be able to refrain from using that? And then let the person decide. And if they say, well, actually, I can't, I'm going to keep using it, then you have a choice. You can stay around, but if you do, stop whining. And if you can't handle it, then leave. Don't be in their presence. It's as simple as that. But if they're your friend or a family member and you're going to end the relationship over the use of a word, wow, what if you get offended by the color red? And they wear something red all the time. Are you gonna, hey, well, I don't have anything to do with them anymore? Oh, why not? Well, they wear red, and the color red offends me because it's so attached to communism, and I hate communism. Where does it end? It's crazy. So, in the words of Stephen Fry, who, by the way, swears an awful lot. And I bring that up because often these people who want to get you on swearing tell you erroneously that people who use swear words obviously don't have a very good vocabulary or aren't very intelligent, when in fact, if you do your research, don't believe anything I say, go and look it up, and you'll find that it's the opposite. People who have pretty good vocabulary, above average vocabulary, and Stephen Fry has probably one of the best vocabulary, amount of words at his disposal of anybody I know, and is extremely intelligent. And he'll use swear words a lot, but again, he'll use them deliberately, for a reason, for stress, or for punctuation, an exclamation point, or because he feels that that word is exactly what is needed at that time. And that's how I use them. I don't just sit around. I went down to fucking shops the other day and it was bleeding shite because I couldn't get what I fucking wanted, you know what I mean? It was shit and all that, because it just, that's, to me, that might be somebody who doesn't have a great vocabulary. But when you're using these words deliberately and placing them in the right place for whatever reason, then it's a different ball game. Anyway, that's basically the challenging idea for today. And we've changed it up a bit, as you can see. I am not writing these out and reading them anymore. I am running the risk of doing them live and saying this stuff off the top of my head. But pretty much at this point, that's how I feel about it. If you say that around me, for the most part, and again, there are, as we pointed out, there may be some exceptions to the rule. As always, all meaning is context dependent. But generally speaking, grown-up adults whining that this offends them or that offends them, as if they should get some kind of kudos or maybe given a soother or a lollipop, I don't get it. And I, for one, will laugh and mock them and not respect what they're saying. And I'm talking about what they're saying, not them as a person. I'll mock what they're saying. I'll laugh at what they're saying. I can still love them as a cousin. I can still care about them as a friend. But this needs to be, it's run so rampant now, it's just become normal. I think it needs to be stopped. And the only way to stop it, kind of like religion, is to laugh at it and mock it and challenge it whenever you get the opportunity. And let people know that, they can try and shut people up, but everywhere they go, including their kids, are going to hear swear words. They're going to hear the F word and the C word and the S word and all these different words. And like Stephen Fry says, so fucking what? They're just words. They're just words. They don't have some magical power. They're not like, some people who believe in spirituality or supernatural or religion, that can cause like putting a curse on somebody or voodoo. It's not like that. It really isn't. Words, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words and names that you throw at me cannot hurt me. And I invite you to join the club. Don't let them hurt you. And say what you want. Use your free speech. And exercise it as often as you can, because if we don't, we're going to lose it. And it's happening already, so I don't even know if the tide can be turned now. But, well, there it is for today. Challenging idea number 3. Let me know in the comments what you think, particularly if you disagree with me. Maybe you'll put forward some good reasons why I should change my mind, and I will. If my current opinion on this is challenged and I'm given good reasons, good arguments to come to the conclusion that I'm wrong, I'll change my mind. I'll come on with another video and I will say so. I'll say I changed my mind and why. And really that's what this is all about. About the fact that, and I've said this before, and I think this is a large part why I do this, these challenging ideas, is two people, me and a friend, me and you, are like a microcosm of two nations. If we disagree on something, if we're fighting over something, a thought, an idea, an opinion, and we find ourselves in that position, there's only really two options. One, we can use violence, beat each other up, and whoever beats the other person up the worst wins, right? Or we can discuss it. We can communicate back and forth like two mature adults, using our intellect, using good reason and logic and so on, and see if we can come to some new understanding, or maybe somebody changes their mind. That's all we have. So with that said, I'll bid you adieu and look forward to hearing from you in the comments. And as usual, I would be so grateful if you could please like, share, and if you haven't already, subscribe, so I can continue to make more of these and hopefully educate, inform, and entertain. Hopefully, that's the goal. All right, bye now.